Hi, the curriculum that I'm going to be talking about is all about reading. I have taught all about reading for the past 3 years. I have taught the pre-reading level, level 1, level 2, and level 3. My kids are currently in 1st and 3rd grade, and so this year my 1st grader used level 2 and my 3rd grader used level 3. The one I'm going to focus on and show you some examples is from level 2. So they're basically all formatted the same. You get a lesson that introduces a new sound in reading. And for instance, in this one, it was the double E in vowel team syllables. So it gives you the parent portion at the beginning so you could read over it and become familiar with what way that the lesson's going to be going in case you yourself have forgotten what the double E sound is and how it works. So you would preview this page, and then with your student, and whatever is in the box is the parent portion. And then it goes into like how to plan out your lesson. So first it's going to suggest review and then word cards, and we'll go over the review and the word cards in just a second. In this particular instance, the new phonogram was the double E sound, and it comes with magnets. And so each time that you introduce a new phonogram card, there's also a corresponding magnetic letter. In this situation, it was the double E. And so what the lesson does is teaches you how to teach the student the new sound. So in this one, we started with the with the word feet, and then it teaches you how to explain that out to the student. And then it has you do some modifications and do a new word such as feed. And then you keep changing it out and keep introducing new words until they master the sound. There's also an app that comes recommended with this curriculum, and I'm going to be covering that as well. But in the app, you can press the phonogram sound, and it will give you and your student the sound, the correct sound or pronunciation of that phonogram. So anyway, it goes through like this. There are coded magnetic tiles. For instance, that's a vowel team. And so some of the lessons will have your student reinforce what they already know, bring this lesson back around and say, okay, what type of syllable is this? And again, this is level 2. But ultimately, the process is the same in each level. It's a lesson with the reinforcement. Then you'll be building bigger words or more words and labeling them into syllables. Then it moves into an activity. In this particular activity that reinforced the double E sound, it was find the problem, which was 6 fish ate your cake. That's a problem. And then the student had to find the solution to that. In this situation, it was make more cake. So it was multiple, these are already cut up. My kids are done with the curriculum for the year, so I didn't have any unused pages, but ultimately it was to match a problem with a solution. And in those problems and solutions, it's reinforcing the new sound that you have learned on that day. So that's typical of each lesson. And then it moves into reinforced words. So the sound again on this lesson was the double E sound. And so you would then go over these flashcards with your student, each one relating back to what you learned that day. And then oftentimes there are words, I think there was one in this lesson, that don't align with this rule. And so they're taught as exceptions. And so they're called leap words. And they're just expected to memorize them. These I then file in a box. Hopefully I got the right box, yeah. And so in the setup, it came with these divider cards that say phonogram card review, and I should have pulled the phonogram out and I didn't, but there's one for each letter or sound that they're learning. And then there's dividers, the ones that are mastered, the ones for future lessons, and the ones for review. So what I do is each time I teach a new sound and it has new words, I keep that sound and also the new words in the review category. And so when I start the new lesson, we pull out the review. If they get them all right, I move that into the mastered category. Every time that I teach new words, I always put them under review, even if they get them, just as a way to reinforce what we learned, a couple of days later. So you would get, these would be for this lesson. And so after we completed the lesson, I would put them in the review area. And then the next time that we get into a new word situation, we would review these first, hopefully move them into the master pile, and my new set of words would go in the review divider. Okay, and so it's, this is 1 out of 2 boxes. There are 2 boxes. They didn't fit exactly right, but this is what a curriculum for the year would look like. Okay, so after you're done with the flashcards, it will go into a workbook page that has the new words in it. Again, your student will read through these words. Some of them are going to be from the flashcards, and some will just be new words that they should be able to master or at least attempt with the new sound that they just learned. After they go through the words, then it goes on to phrases that have the new words in it, and then it'll move into sentences. And the sentences, again, reinforce the new sound that they just learned. At the end of that part of the lesson, they'll have sometimes in here some parenting teaching tips. And this one, for instance, it just says avoid making corrections too soon. It'll tell you some things that are known about new readers and about how they learn. And then ultimately finishing off the lesson is a suggestion that you read aloud to your student for 20 minutes. And there's a progress chart. Mine's in the other room, but you give them a sticker for each lesson that they finish. My kids love doing this. And so they get a sticker and it tracks their progress. And ultimately at the end of the year, the end of the school year, they'll have their whole page filled out. So that's one type of lesson. The second lesson is a reinforcement lesson. And so what it will do is take those same new sound that you learned. You'll go over words taught in previous lessons. You'll review flashcards, go through some phrases, and then it'll often give you some vocabulary that you'll learn, teach vocabulary, and activate prior knowledge. So this is the warm-up sheet. And so in this one, there's a little rat, it runs on the wheel, and they'll give you some information about that so your student learns some things that will probably be talked about in the story, new vocabulary. So that once that's done, then you'll move on to the reader books. The reader books in this level, What Am I and Queen Bee. So what happens is every time that you finish a new sound lesson, then there'll be a story for your student to read that has all of the new words reinforced in the story. So they progressively get more in depth with the words that the student would know by then. In the pre-K one, it's just letters, and then obviously in the level 1, there's the consonant, vowel, consonant words in there. So they're pretty short little stories, but all the words in the stories the student should be able to read and sound out on their own. So with this one, this is the Pine Tree Pet Shop that follows up the double E, but ultimately it goes through and the student reads a story, and they're pretty cute, actually, little stories too. My kids love them. They have some pretty good animation in them. And then at the end of the story, they get to say the end. Anyway, after that, there's another activity. So each lesson has an activity that will reinforce the story that they read. I don't have this one out, but it was, this is the lesson. I'm sorry, I gave you guys the activity before that went with this one. But either way, there's some type of cutout, answering problems and giving solutions. And then at the end of this lesson, there's also the suggestion to read a story or poem. They get to go put another sticker on their chart, and that's ultimately it. It's designed pretty much for you to do 2 lessons a week. They're 52 or 54 or 57 different lessons in each level. And so if you did about 2 a week, 1 with the new sound and then 1 with the reinforcement story, you should be able to finish the curriculum with little problem in a normal school year. hopefully you guys enjoyed the All About Reading as much as I do. Thanks for your time. Bye-bye.